you're in your 20s and you feel lost, just like how I currently do. I don't feel as lost as I used to be, but I'm still navigating what I want out of this life. you know every day sounds the same. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure it out. I just need time. But we're being real with ourselves here, which I like to be realistic with myself. That's one thing that I've been hammering in my mental, was to be realistic and look at life in a realistic way. Um, you know, Most people aren't actually trying to figure it out. They're just waiting, waiting for to magically feel motivated, waiting for confidence, waiting for certainty, waiting for some signs from the universe telling them exactly who they are supposed to become as a person. And while they wait, years disappear. You say you're going to start something, and then all of a sudden it's 2 months later and you haven't really accomplished anything towards that goal originally. I've actually accomplished one of my short-term goals last week. I passed a funded account evaluation, and if I actually put myself to it the way I have over the last 3-4 months of learning the stock market and learning how to day trade and paper trading and back trading, and you know taking down, jotting every single thing possible about the certain trade that I take on my paper trading accounts. I would have done this 2 years ago when I wanted to start. I remember sitting in the office in my house back home with this journal that I actually brought the journal here, and I made an entirely new journal. But I did it's funny hearing this back, but I did all 50 days of TJR, which is this big time day trader, influencer guy. I did all 50 days of his boot camp thing, what he teaches you he teach you the basics of it. And thinking the whole time, it was like, oh yeah, when I finish this, I'm set. I'm gonna lock in, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna pass an account, I'm gonna become funded, and I'm gonna make money. And once that 50 days was up, what did I do? I was like, yeah, tomorrow I'll buy that funded account. And then the next day I said the same thing. And then the next day, and then snapped my fingers, and I'm a year and a half, 2 years later, and I moved out here, and probably in February, I saw that journal. I read through everything. I read through all my goals that I had for what I wanted to do and how much money I wanted to make, and all this and that. And I just was like, dude, I never accomplished any of this, because I said I was going to do it tomorrow. You say you want to find your purpose, but what you're actually doing, but what are you actually doing to find it? Because purpose isn't something you think your way into. It's something that you have to accomplish by doing things every day to better yourself, to better your life. Most people treat life like they're supposed to already have the answers. At 20, 22, 25, shit. I've even seen videos of people in their 30s that talk about this kind of stuff. But nobody talks about how normal it is to feel lost when you haven't actually experienced enough life yet. You don't know what you love because you haven't tried enough things. You don't know what you're capable of because you keep staying comfortable, and you keep calling confusion a personality trait instead of what it actually is. It is inaction. You say you hate your situation, but you wake up late. You wake up at 12 o'clock and you go on your phone immediately. You eat like shit, but yet you want to be this ripped dude. You want to start running, and you want to get into better shape, and you run 2 miles and then just walk the rest. I say all of this because this is, mind you, I'm like I always say in the videos, I'm the farthest person from perfect you could find. But this is how I was to a fucking T, not even a year ago. I've only, over the last few months since being out here, I've cut down on my Instagram. Like I said before, most of my social media is now just inspiration for videos to make on YouTube, inspiration for trading, all that stuff. I still do doom scroll, but I'll go on my phone on Instagram for 10 minutes, then put it away. You talk about changing, like you tell your friends, you tell your family, I'm gonna be this, I'm doing this, I'm doing these things. I'm doing things that are gonna, better myself. But in reality, you aren't doing that. You're telling people that because you want to hear that. You want to feel validated to yourself. You watch motivational videos at 2 a.m. and then you say, oh yeah, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up in the morning and go on a run, or I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and try some new business venture out. And then what happens the next day? You repeat the exact same fucking thing. And that is the trap. People think that thinking about life is the same as living it, and it's very far similar. You don't build confidence by imagining a better version of yourself. You build it by doing uncomfortable things repeatedly until your brain realizes you've survived them. This is now the norm. You can imagine a better version of yourself, but you have to actually put action forward to get to that version. I went out and had 2 or 3 beers. I had 2 or 3, not beers, Aperol spritzes the other day on Saturday, but I was just chilling with my 2 friends that are out here, and my friends and this girl that my friend knew from college, and we were just hanging out. But I wasn't drunk. Like I wasn't drinking to black out. I was drinking just to relax and have a fun time with my friends. I wasn't even close to being drunk like that, like to what I got a month or 2 months ago. I told myself I wanted to look a certain way, and I go back home to visit home in July, and I told myself by July I want to be unrecognizable. And obviously that's a short time span to get to that point, but I want to look a lot better than I am right now. And mind you, I personally think I look the best physically that I've ever looked in my fucking life out here. It's hard not to be when all the food out here is the cleanest food I've ever had in my life. But I've imagined what I can look like because I know that I'm going to follow this exact diet and this exact workout regimen and this running that I've been doing. I know I'm going to stick to that. So I know that the progress I'm seeing right now will only be amplified in a month and a half because I'm not going to stop doing this. I started running 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the first day I ran is probably the first time I ran in 4 months. And I ran 7 fucking miles straight. And before that, when I was back home, I was running 2 miles, 3 miles, and I thought that was fun. I thought that was enough. But I told myself that I wanted to run more, and I wanted to put myself in an uncomfortable position. The whole time I'm running, I'm like, I could stop walking right now. But then I think, I get to my apartment faster if I just keep on fucking running. That's been like my biggest motivational thing was, I want to get back home and shower. I feel like shit. I'm sweaty as shit. I stink. How am I going to get back home faster? Is if I keep on running and not stop and walking. You have to do uncomfortable things over and over and over and over, and then your brain makes them not uncomfortable. You become comfortable being uncomfortable. The truth is, your 20s are probably supposed to feel uncertain. You're supposed to have these doubts and this confusion because you find yourself in your 20s. This is the decade where you fail. You try random things, you embarrass yourselves, you quit jobs, you start projects nobody believes in, meet people that change your perspective on life, travel somewhere unfamiliar, lose friends, outgrow versions of yourself. I've since living in Rome, I've done 3 or 4 solo day trips, and I went to this lake, Lake Bracciano, and there was literally it was a town built around a medieval fucking castle, and I felt so unfamiliar and so lost in that town, and that just opened up my mind to, how big this world is, and it's like living out here and meeting some people from Europe and meeting people who have not been I didn't have the royalties that I had growing up in a suburban town, in a nice town in New Jersey, has really changed I had a friend out here who grew up getting bombed every day in the Middle East, like that shit. Like, how can I, obviously everybody goes through their own shit, but how can I feel like, oh, my life sucks when I grew up like that? There's people in this world who grow up not knowing if they're going to survive, if they're going to be alive the next day, you know? Like, how can you take life for granted and not try things when all you have is the ability to do that, you know? You lose friends, you know, you outgrow versions of yourself, and that is life. But some people never grow because they never move. They want clarity before action, but clarity comes from action. Nobody discovers purpose sitting in their room overthinking. The people you look up to, most of them had no clue what they were doing at the beginning either. They just started. That's it. They started before they felt ready. They started while they were insecure. They started while they doubted themselves, while they were broke, while they still felt lost. And eventually life revealed itself to them because movement creates answers. You want to know one of the biggest lies people tell themselves? I have time. Yeah, and maybe you do, but that mindset becomes dangerous because then it turns into a daily thought. And then suddenly you wake up and realize you spend more time consuming your life than actually building one. And deep down, that feeling of being lost, a lot of the times, is not because you lack purpose, it's because you lack motivation. Humans weren't built to sit around all day questioning their existence. We were supposed to move, create, struggle, learn, adapt. Even small actions changes you. Go to the gym, start a channel, apply for a job, take that trip you always wanted to take but never wanted to spend the money. You know, money comes and goes, you know, that's what I've learned out here. Money comes and goes. The amount of times I've sat out here in my apartment stressing out like, damn, like I want to do this, but you know, can I afford it right now? And then I end up just doing it, and the money comes back eventually. You know, learn. You have to learn a skill, you know, talk to new people, wake up earlier, read more, train harder. You know, I could have started this YouTube channel. I have these ideas and thoughts in my head about the videos that I like the information that I talk about. I have these thoughts in my head and this knowledge about like what I've gone through and I talk about it for a few years now. But I've always worried about being judged for having like this like a YouTube channel. You know, I always thought I'd be like, oh, that's corny, like you're being performative, this and that. And what did I do? I came out here, I was like, fuck it. If somebody hates on it, that means they don't actually care about me, you know. And all I've had from my friends that actually watch these videos, you know, my two friends in particular, Leo and Lucas, you know, they've only given me, you know, such like strong words of clarity that I'm doing a decent job at this, that it's only been pushing me to keep on doing it. You know, have even the smallest thing of the other day, I made a video about you know, like who you surround yourself with and who you're friends with. And my friend Leo literally texted me the next day and was like, dude, I really thought that video like that's so true, like that's so factual. And that alone like made me realize, you know, maybe like I'm not doing the wrong thing. Like maybe like these videos can actually reach out to somebody who needs to hear it and it will help them out. You know, I'm not saying he needs the help, but you know what I mean? He made me think that maybe somebody out there could watch my videos and think, you know, that video was resourceful and hearing that helped me. You know, that's the action that I took without thinking, oh, I'll do this tomorrow, or oh, who is someone to think about this? I just took action. Not because every single thing will become your life purpose, but because every action teaches you something about yourself. And that's how purpose is built, piece by piece. And stop thinking your purpose has to be some massive world-changing thing. Sometimes purpose is just becoming someone you're proud of, someone disciplined, someone dependable, someone who keeps promising, who keeps promises to themselves and who stops running from discomfort. Because the uncomfortable truth is this: a lot of people aren't actually scared of failing. You know, they're scared of trying and realizing how much potential they've wasted. That's why they stay distracted. Distraction protects you from confronting your own life choices and your own life mistakes. But eventually, distraction stops working. And at some point, you either take control of your life or it takes control of you. And now, look, nobody's saying it's easy. There are going to be mornings where you feel tired, confused, unmotivated, but your feelings cannot keep like making up your future for you. If you only move when you feel inspired, you will stay stuck forever. Action has to come first, not motivation. Because movement creates energy. It creates confidence and opportunity. The people who change their lives are usually not the smartest people in the room. I'm gonna realize again, I get so focused on talking that I forget that the cigarette goes out. Like I was saying, they're not the smartest people in the room. They're just the ones who stopped waiting. Maybe right now you feel behind. Some people your age succeed online. Make money, travel, building businesses, finding relationships, and you feel like everybody figured out life except you. Over these last 2 years, I got to see virtually everybody that I fucking know graduate college, including this past week. I had 2 friends, which I love it. That's fantastic news. Like seeing that, like brought me joy that my friends are improving on life. But over the last 2 years, virtually everybody that I fucking knew has graduated college, and I'm sitting here with a year of school left. And I'm just like, I'm so behind. But in reality, no one's life is the same. Nobody goes through life the same. Everybody has different experiences and different hardships they go through. So you comparing yourself to other people, even if it's your friends, will only hold you down. And I think the worst part about this whole topic is social media, because that hides the reality. Most people go on there and see things and see people doing all this and that, and don't see how their life actually is, because they decide what to post online. I say this to my friend all the time. We talk all the time, this kid Andrew, and I'm like, dude, the topic comes up a lot, and I'm like, dude, social media is the worst thing to happen to human beings, to human existence. Most people are confused, insecure, pretending they know what they're doing. The difference is some people still move forward anyway, and that's courage. That is not certainty, but if you're in your 20s feeling lost right now, hear this clearly. You don't need to have your entire life figured out today. You don't need to move, because nobody's coming to hand you purpose. Nobody's coming to save you from your own potential. Your future life is built by what you do repeatedly right now, not next month and not next year, today. One decision at a time, not uncomfortable actions at a time. One uncomfortable action at a time. And years from now, you either look back thankful you started, or regret that you kept on waiting. So stop saying you can't. Stop saying you lost while you did nothing to actually find yourself. You're alive, you're young, you still have time. But time only matters if you use it. So get up and start building your fucking life. With that being said, I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and have a great fucking night.